Hey everybody. Just gonna give it a couple minutes for folks to make their way in, and then we'll get started. All right, so I do want to discuss like the upcoming forecast for the next couple months. I think it's gonna be really exciting. I mean, if you guys just take a look at this chart, like this looks so bullish. Really beautiful looking chart. Very exciting time to be a GME holder. But I think I'm gonna spend like the first couple of minutes at least just answering any questions that you guys have. I saw a lot of them last night, and then we'll roll into the stream. So Bullish Citizen says, did we get the trigger cross last week? So if you guys could see this weekly trigger here, from the very beginning, the thesis for the Meltup has always been that once the weekly trigger gets above the monthly trigger, then we're gonna have that Meltup finally. So if you go to my profile, I posted this back on May 27th, so very, very, very long time ago. And the post was basically what triggers a melt-up. So the triggers are very good at identifying melt-up scenarios. And I'll show you guys a couple of other examples. So like, just so that you don't think it's only for meme stocks, if you look in NVIDIA, you could see right here, had that bullish weekly trigger, monthly trigger crossover. You can see that blue crossing over the purple right here. And this was back when price was 18, obviously pre-split. And you could see just the beautiful upward trajectory of price once it got that bullish crossover. And again, not just for meme stocks, not just for tech stocks, even the S&P 500. You could see back all the way in right here, January. Price was at 395 at the time, got that bullish weekly trigger, monthly trigger crossover. And sure, there's been pullbacks along the way, but in general, this has just been a massive, massive meltdown. So basically, I posted, what triggers a meltup. So the monthly trigger is obviously the most vital. That's the purple trigger here. And you want to see that break above the monthly trigger. So price breaking above the monthly trigger, that's the first step to a meltup. The second step to a meltup is the daily trigger crossing above the monthly trigger. And the third and final step is the weekly trigger crossing above the monthly trigger. And once you have all the lower time frame triggers above the monthly trigger, this purple line here, that's when you get these strong explosive rallies. So this was GameStop back in 2020, and we could see that a 3,700% rally followed once it moved into the most bullish trigger orientation, the melt-up orientation. And then this was AMC back in June 2021. You have the same thing. You have price breaks above the monthly trigger here and here. It finally sticks. And then you have the daily trigger crossing above the monthly trigger. And the more triggers you get above the monthly trigger, the more ready price is to accelerate strongly to the upside. And then you have this bullish crossover, and you had a 600% rally to the upside in AMC back in 2021. So overall, getting those triggers, those trigger crosses, putting the stock in the most bullish trigger orientation. You could see here hourly strong bullish, daily strong bullish, weekly strong bullish. And for the first time since January 2021, on Monday morning, we're going to get the reading monthly strong bullish. The last time we had this kind of setup was back here in December. Now, what's really cool about this, people were asking a lot about how this pertains to Bitcoin. When you look at the halving cycles, so the last halving cycle was May 11th in 2020. From the halving cycle until the bullish weekly trigger crossover, you're not going to believe this until you see it, but I'm going to show you guys that I'm not lying. So here's that bullish crossover. You can see it was just about 204 days from the halving until the bullish crossover. And then um, from the crossover until that first melt up candle, which was right here, it's about 42 days. So I'll remove the triggers for a second so you see what I'm talking about. This melt up candle, right? So even though you had the bullish trigger cross back here, price started moving up for sure. Here was a really big pop. I mean, you had a pullback after like this. The trigger cross doesn't mean it's going to go up vertical immediately. It means that it's going to start melting up. But first, you have to build a base, and pullbacks are part of building a base. You could see great support at the daily trigger here, great support again at the daily trigger here, and then things start to get crazy. So now what's really cool about this is, remember, 204 days from the Bitcoin halving to the bullish trigger cross. When you come back to current price action, just pretty astonishing. Yeah, the same thing. The Bitcoin halving was, it was really Friday, April 19th. This is a drop off, but same concept. We're just about 204 days over, and we're now getting, again, a bullish weekly trigger, monthly trigger crossover on Monday morning. So definitely a little bit more than a coincidence, I would say. If it was like 50 days apart or 100 days apart, I'd say okay, fine. Like, it may not be correlated, but I mean, this is pretty damning evidence that GameStop has something to do with the BTC cycles. Now, if you guys remember in my past bunch of videos, I kept saying that watch for Bitcoin to break out to all-time high. This is my projection back in the beginning of November. It's already a little bit more bullish. I didn't think we would break all-time highs until mid-November, but again, I'd happily be wrong if I'm being not bullish enough, rather than being too bullish. The price doesn't go up there. So once Bitcoin broke to all-time high, that's kind of what told me what's about to happen with GameStop. And the logic is very simple. When Bitcoin breaks all-time high, we see a massive influx of liquidity into risk assets. And risk assets, GME comes to top of mind. So when you see Bitcoin making moves like that, and then Tesla making moves like that, anyone that's been in the game for a while, and by the way, so Tesla, you can see the weekly trigger crosses the monthly trigger right here, and look what happens. You get this little pullback and then literal melt up. And you have the same situation here where the monthly trigger crossed above the weekly trigger because it was end of month. You could see Thursday, October 31st to Friday, November 1st. So the monthly trigger jumped, and then the weekly trigger was able to cross back above it. And then look how fast it started melting up on Tesla. So, just more evidence on what we're about to see here from GameStop. So again, very, very compelling case that price is about to melt up. Now, the one thing I just want to warn everybody, well, not warn everybody, but opportunity of a lifetime kind of warning. If there is indeed this pullback to the daily trigger, I'm talking about for myself personally. This is not financial advice in any sort of sense at all. So again, I'm just discussing my own plan. This shouldn't be misconstrued as financial advice in any sort of way. But if price would pull back to the daily trigger here, for example, that would be a perfect scenario for me to take out a mortgage on my house and go all in. I wouldn't tell anybody else to do that. Most people are sane. But for me personally, I mean, that's the kind of opportunity that it will be looking at. Again, I just showed the same thing with Tesla. You get that bullish crossover, and then there is a pullback to the daily trigger before things go crazy. Even, GameStop back in 2021, back in 2020, even after the crossover right here, there was a pullback to the daily trigger first. There was even two pullbacks to the daily trigger. So once you have that bullish weekly trigger, monthly trigger crossover, the daily trigger kind of becomes that spot where algos are going to dip by with everything they got. And it's kind of like an automatic dip buy, like with zero worry whatsoever that price is going to collapse through. And so that's the ideal spot where I'd be looking to take a humongous position. Now, I'm already long shares and options, but a gift like this, some sort of pullback like this, would definitely, for me, be an all-in signal. And I kind of hope we get it. I know delayed gratification is not something that retail investors are used to, but cheaper options, lower IV, and a lower share price in the last possible dip scenario before price explodes to 100. you'd be looking back at this in a few months, probably, or at least I would be looking back on this in a few months as, maybe my best dip buy ever. Now, in terms of targets, I am comparing this move to the move of June 2021. And so, in terms of upside, I'm looking for about a 5 to 7x from the bullish crossover, which I guess happened on Friday. And so, we could do like, my magnet's still there. So, maybe like something like 150. You could have a strong move to 130. Then a pullback, let's say to 110, and then topping out at 150. Now that doesn't mean going to top out forever. Just means like that's the melt up that I've personally been calling for. Now after that, you could kind of see something like what Tesla did way back when. If I go back and show you guys. So, it's very possible it does something like this, where you have that bullish crossover like Tesla did. You have a big melt up. Now this would be the move to 130, by the way, right here on this melt up. So let me really zoom in so you guys understand what I'm trying to say. Here would be that bullish crossover, and here's where GameStop would be right now. And then you'd have a crazy melt up to like 150, or let's say 130 pullback and then 150. And then you have some sort of big retracement after. Now, I'm not saying it's going to come all the way back down to the monthly trigger, but I think we could see some kind of big retracement after, maybe to the weekly trigger instead. And then after the melt up and after the retracement, then you go on a multi-year bull run. So you could see what Tesla did after. Just incredible explosive move all the way. And then finally, some sort of blow off top in the form of shorts covering. So this is what I see up ahead. Let's see how long this took from the bullish crossover December 19th, December 2019 until the top was about 2 years. So yeah, I think the next 2 years are going to be a little bit crazy. The Grape Ape, this is a charting tool. You could learn more about it in any of our packages on Meme Stock Watch. But essentially, this is what I think could unfold. We're basically in the early stages of the Tesla short squeeze. I think Friday, we just on Monday, whatever, getting that bullish crossover here. Whether there's a pullback to the daily trigger or whether price just keeps exploding, either or, I think we're gonna have a very strong move to about 130, 150, have a major pullback, and then start the bull run for the next 2 years or so. I think 1,000 is very, very doable. Let's see, from the bullish crossover until the top was about 1,400%. So what does that look like in GME terms? Probably going to be around 3,000 if my math is anywhere remotely correct. Nope, not even remotely correct. Yeah, 385. Okay. I mean, still solid. And, you never know if Tesla does indeed, if GameStop does indeed have a much higher short interest than Tesla did. Oh, and then there was even another top. Okay, so let's do this. So almost 2,000% from the bullish crossover. And wait, I just want to zoom that out. You could see, right, even Tesla is boring for 5 years or so. People are complaining about 3 years of sideways price action. Look at Tesla for 5 years. And then once it gets that bullish crossover, literally exploded 2,000% in almost 3 years. Almost 3 years. No, not even 2 years. Okay, so going back to GameStop, let's just put 2,000% because I think that's fair. Yeah, I guess if it does follow like the kind of Tesla move, we could be looking at like 500 2 years from now, which I think is very doable. But first, let's have the melt up, and then kind of get into longer term targets. All right, so if you guys have any questions, you could. Oh, and by the way, in terms of trading it, I'm telling you, moves like this are the easiest to trade. And if you go back to the AMC, melt up, which is what I did, studied it for a while, you'll see all you got to do really in these scenarios is buy at the hourly trigger for weeklies and buy at the daily trigger for like longer term. So for example, any dips now at this stage, now that the weekly trigger has finally crossed above the monthly trigger, it'll only show up in the chart on Monday. But now that we did finally get that crossover, any dips to the hourly trigger are going to be bought so fast, like almost automatically. And so any dips to the hourly trigger is where I'm going to be looking to buy weeklies for a nice upside bounce. And then once the hourly trigger is lost, eventually I'll stop out below it. And then any dips down into the daily trigger is the easiest buy for like longer dated calls. So the way I'll be playing this is, yes, of course, I have a core position that I don't plan on touching, but with increased volatility and with increased velocity, these are the kind of scenarios where if you're a savvy trader, you can make bank just by buying bounces at the triggers, because the stronger the velocity and when the weekly trigger is above the monthly trigger, the hourly trigger and the daily trigger become extremely strong supports. Okay, let's go on to some questions. January 16 contracts still good. I cannot tell you which contracts to buy, which contracts not to buy, because I am not a financial advisor. I'm sorry. Can a share offering ruin this? So that's a great question. I don't think we're going to get a share offering because I just think this is all like pre-programmed price action. Meaning like it's going to happen regardless. So I don't think, even if there is dilution, I don't think it'll affect it. I don't think there will be dilution. I was very adamant back when these moves happened that I did not think we were ready for a short squeeze for a melt up, because the weekly trigger was still very far from the monthly trigger. And instead, if you go back to all my tweets back here, I kept saying, I don't expect, this was even the beginning when we had that strong move, still back in May. I kept saying, like, we got to wait till the 3 steps are completed. There you go, Comanzo. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not really afraid of dilution. I just don't think it's going to come into play at all. That's my personal opinion. If you think it will come into play, then you could plan accordingly, I guess. I just don't see it as a big deal, and so I'm not going to worry about it. I don't think it's going to happen, and I think even if it happens, it won't really affect anything. What positions are you currently in or thinking on? I'm in shares, which I've been in for a long time, and I'm in a decent-sized call position. Will AMC run after GME? I don't cover AMC, so I can't be help for that. There are folks that trade it in the Discord that are just as good at using the charting software as I am, but I personally just don't cover it. Do we need more volume? I think volume will come in a healthy way as GME starts to break like certain levels, like above 30, you probably get a huge burst of volume. Above 25, you probably get a huge burst of volume. Each like psychological level, once that breaks, probably going to see more and more volume come in as more disbelievers on the sidelines start thinking, oh man, this might really squeeze, and then come right back down, come right back into the trade. Could a kitty tweet send this thing? I don't think it makes a difference. I don't think he's going to tweet personally because, it was much better for him to tweet back here, basically, set up everything that's going to happen, than tweet when the actual melt-up is occurring, probably for safety and legal reasons. I think it's going to happen regardless. January 2026 contracts are a very safe position to take. Maybe not the most upside, but safe contracts with a stop loss. This trade gets invalidated with any break back below here. Now, the odds of that happening are extremely, extremely low. But even if they were high, when you're talking about a long position, and I've been saying, to long every dip here, but where is it? So if you would take a long position right here, your upside and downside risk is very skewed. Your downside risk is about 13%. But if you win the trade, and we do get the melt up, which I think we will, then your upside risk is 418. So if you're willing to risk 13% of downside, almost 14% of downside for possible 418% returns, this is a great trade for you. If you're not willing to risk 14% downside, because at the end of the day, any setup can be invalidated, then simply don't take the trade. Do you think this will go to 1,000? I'll be honest with you guys. Once 130 is hit, like, I'm probably going to be well off Twitter. I'm probably still going to hold my shares, but if I could sell my options at 130, you probably won't ever see me again. Do these price targets take into account shorts, or is that a whole other conversation? Yeah, that's a whole other conversation. These targets do not take into account shorts, naked shorts. This is just a melt up setup in a stock that has a history of melting up with a weekly trigger, monthly trigger, bullish crossover. And so there's zero reason to assume, especially with other risk assets starting to fly now, with Bitcoin breaking all-time high, there's no reason to assume that GameStop won't have a melt-up of its own. What's your time frame? That's a really great question. I do have a time frame in mind. And if you're savvy enough, you probably could have picked it up from the beginning of the video when I started talking about, the distance from Bitcoin halving to bullish crossover to where the squeeze would start. But I don't want to talk about dates or anything like that, because I know the GME community has a kind of sour taste in their mouths about that. How fast do you think 130 can come once the melt up starts? I think within 2 weeks, if I'm being honest. Again, just comparing to AMC in 2021. So this move happened really, really quickly. So like, let's just call it here to the top. It was only 9 days of trading. So, I think realistically speaking, the whole thing could probably happen in 2 weeks once it starts. Yeah, so if you guys remember, I did speak about Ethereum Classic in my last couple of videos. I wasn't the person to figure this out, to be clear. It was Sam from Trading with Emotions that figured it out a couple of years ago. But if you look at Ethereum Classic in relation to GME, that's a great question, Rolando. I'm going to get to that in a second, actually. If you look at the relationship between Ethereum Classic and GameStop, you could see that, and also, by the way, just keep in mind, this was before the AMC rally, all right? This May, June, GME moved, I think, 100% to the upside. Let's see, from 35 to 85. Okay, a little bit more than 100%, maybe 150%. But keep in mind that AMC moved 700% right after this ginormous Ethereum Classic pump. So this was, I think, what first put some people onto this. Ethereum Classic had a major pump back in 2021 in May, and GameStop and AMC started squeezing later in May, like 3 weeks later. So ever since then, it became a thing to, look at Ethereum Classic. If it starts pumping, you probably get some good news for memes later. And then Ethereum Classic had, again, this really big pump, 27% move, and then GameStop exploded a couple of days later. Then here, you had a little bit of an upside move. GameStop followed. Here, you had a huge upside move, and right when the upside move finished, GameStop started exploding the next day. And then here, you had another big burst in ETC, and GameStop again got it. And then even back for the main move, Ethereum Classic went ballistic. I'm not sure the percentage move on this. Oh, 14 to 30 to 38. So yeah, more than 100% upside move from Ethereum Classic. And then 3 weeks later, 11th of March to 3rd of May, GameStop started to explode as well. Now, when we take a look at Ethereum Classic, it's starting to look really bullish. Kind of like a big upside break is going to come. So you can see this huge candle that happened over the weekend. And when you see something like this, you can start getting more bullish on GameStop because okay, fine. Again, risk assets are flying, liquidity is circling, and it's going to hit GameStop at some point. And so when I look at this chart, obviously we're going to contend with the monthly trigger for a bit. So Ethereum Classic might not be ready to explode just yet. But if it does get through that monthly trigger and starts to really gallop to 30, that's just more and more confirmation and more confluence that we're probably going to be right about this GameStop meltup. So possible gap up tomorrow. Possible gap up tomorrow. I wouldn't be surprised again to see a pullback to the daily trigger because I've noticed in multiple melt ups where right after the bullish weekly trigger, monthly trigger crossover happens, there's that one final pullback to the daily trigger. We saw it on Tesla, we saw it on GameStop, we even saw it on AMC. So I cannot rule out this, and this pullback could be over the course of a week. In fact, if I'm a betting man, I'm actually going to bet on a pullback to the daily trigger first before the real upside move happens. But once this thing gets started, all bets are off. At the end of the day, it's just going to bounce off triggers and just keep headed higher and higher and higher. So if it loses the hourly trigger, that's when you got to expect that daily trigger test. But this is going to hold support almost automatically once the weekly trigger is above the monthly trigger, which is enough to get things going. Yeah, Commando, yeah. Platinum Plan is pretty good. Good value on it, in my opinion. All right, anybody else have some questions? Oh, yeah. ETC, GameStop on Soul. So again, like I posted this one time and I had people tell me that like I'm shilling um what's it called? Like I'm shilling Solana coins. Like, you know, listen, I'm okay with everyone having the opinions that they want to have. But when it comes to the retail crowd and playing options, I feel like many have gotten burned due to not understanding them too well. And so, like in my personal opinion, and again, you're more than welcome to disagree with me on this. It doesn't make me a bad person, doesn't make you a bad person. We just don't have to be in agreement. But this coin, when GameStop goes up, like this coin's gonna pump. I mean, that's not really like a if, but more of a when. Because when GameStop is like the front page in the news, it's going to get a lot of attention. And with Solana breaking to all-time highs now and meme coin trading becoming, a real staple in crypto over the past year, it's only getting bigger and bigger. I mean, I see pump fun live streams now. Like it really is going mainstream. So I do think this coin is going to go like 10x over the next few months, in my opinion. It's at 24 million market cap. I could see 250 million market cap coming really soon, like a quick repricing. And to me, I just think of it like this: like if you're buying shares, okay, fine, no problem. Don't buy this. But if someone is trying to make a bet on the melt up and trying to profit off the melt up, like if you don't want to mess around with options because you're either scarred from a previous trauma or you don't understand theta and IV too well, you don't understand the Greeks too well, you don't really know what you're doing, but you don't want to sell your shares when GME melts up. You want to hold your shares forever, but you want to be able to at least profit if the stock goes to 130. I mean, you've held the stock for 4 years. You deserve to at least get some profit. So I do think the GME coin on Sol is a great way to buy it when GME rips. Let's say GME has its melt up. This coin goes, 10x from here. Sell the coin, keep your shares. You made profit on the melt up. That's why I'm a big fan of the coin. I think it's great for people that just don't understand options too well, but still want to profit off the melt up. I'm not shilling it. I'm not telling anybody to buy it. I just thought it was a good idea for people that want to profit off the melt up, but don't want to sell their shares and aren't great at playing options. I personally am long the coin, but I would never tell anybody to buy it. Um, what levels do you predict there will be profit taking? I think the 130 to 150 level is going to be big. Is there a correlation between the ETH move and GME? No, I don't think there's a percentage wise correlation. What's your long term stocks, crypto bonds? Listen, man, I'm taking it day by day. I just try to look to identify melt up setups and get long there. So, for example, earlier this year, we identified a melt up setup in Wolf. Um, and you could see also it got its bullish crossover and then just literally up 100% since that bullish crossover. So you guys got to understand, like these crossovers are really powerful, and they're a great way to help identify Meltup setups. Now it happens to be we were long in the Discord Wolf back over here because this is an early way to identify Meltup setups. We were long, in the twos. If you even go to my Super Stonk post. This was 8 months ago. 8 months ago, I identified this. You can see down here, right? We said Wolf seems to be in a position to possibly squeeze shorts big time. Optimal entry is 190 for me. And this was back in May. What was it? Wait, let's get the date. 8 months ago. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we're long back at like 180. And people in the Discord are up a tremendous amount just on shares. So I don't really have like a long-term outlook on what I want to buy. For me, it's more I like to identify Meltup setups, get positioned, and then ride it out. And you can see, I mean, Wolf just looks ridiculous here. And the guys still long from 180 are in a very happy and comfortable position. There's some other Meltup scenarios that I've identified, that we've identified together in the Discord that we think are going to perform great over the next 2 months. And by the way, guys, if you're not in a Discord right now, if you don't have a plan to take advantage of the next 2 months, I'm not saying join Meme Stock Watch. I'm not. There's plenty of good Discords around there. But the next 2 months is most likely going to be the single best opportunity to make gains for the next 80, 100 years. So if you don't have a plan right now on how you're going to take advantage of the next 2 months, I really strongly feel that you might look back at it with a lot of regret. Like, why didn't I take advantage when the opportunity was so ripe? And Bitcoin doesn't do this often, guys, like only once in 4 years. Now we have the Trump pump along with Bitcoin breaking all-time high. By the way, just another melt up right here in Bitcoin. Weekly trigger crosses the monthly trigger, and then you could see the rest is history, right? Here's the crossover. Already up 128% since then. So again, like it's all about taking advantage of the next 2 months. Like when Bitcoin looks like this, there's going to be liquidity flowing into risk assets. There's going to be money on the sideline jumping into risk assets, like we haven't seen since January 2021. So you really want to take advantage of that. You really want to have a plan and what you're going to do to take advantage of that. Again, I'm not even advocating for my Discord. There's plenty of other good ones out there. I'm just saying have a plan, because you catch a kind of move like this, you don't need to trade for the next 5 years. All right. I'm pretty sure we covered most of what I wanted to talk about. What's your thoughts on Darren Lewis post from Yield Bus? I didn't see it. You could DM me it. I'll take a look. Yeah. Where can you buy this game coin? It's on Solana. If you don't have a Phantom wallet already, probably just forget about it. But if you have a Phantom wallet, you've been trading Solana coins anyway, which I know a lot of people have because it's kind of taken over in crypto right now. I think it could be a winner. That's all I'm saying. I think it could be a big winner. So you don't believe in MOS necessarily. Why would you drop off if GME goes to 500 over several years? I'm not saying I would drop off. I just probably wouldn't spend my time on Twitter anymore. I'd probably, be spending quality time with my wife and kid every minute that I'd be posting Twitter instead. Hypothetically, what call should one ape his hard-earned money into when it comes to GME? Hypothetically, you're asking the wrong guy. Again, I post my own positions in the Discord, but it's not something I'm going to talk about like in the general public. Just not really trying to get into trouble or anything. But yeah, I mean, the short story is if I'm positioned in a way where if Jamie goes to 130, I don't have to sell off my shares, which I want to keep holding, because I do think we're about to start like a really strong uptrend for a couple of years now that starts with a huge melt up first, and then after that melt up, retraces, turns into a multi-year uptrend. But the way I'm positioned in the Solana coin, the GameStop coin, and in options right now, if price hits 130, I should be in a position where I could take a break from the market, where I've been, watching every minute of price action for 4 straight years now. If you want to, EJ, if you want to learn more about it, you could go here. I'll link our website for you. But again, there are plenty of other great Discords out there. We do offer a free trial for a month, but there's plenty of other great Discords out there. I don't want to advocate mine is better than any of them. So I would definitely, take a look around other places as well, not just sign up immediately for something that we have. But again, we do offer a free trial. The code is Meltup. So if you want to take advantage of that, you could test it for a month. If you don't like it, just DM me and I'll cancel it for you. What resources are best for learning options and T analysis like yours? So in our Discord, I have 10 videos, 10 educational videos that explain the whole system that we use start to finish, which type of options to buy, what expiration, what strike price, when to buy them, when to stop out, when to take profit. Each video is like 30 minutes, 45 minutes. So a good like 7 to 9 hours of education on there. And very interesting stuff as well. So if you do want to take the plunge, again, it's all free as long as you cancel your subscription after a month. So you could go to Meme Stock Watch, go to the Platinum plan, use code MELTUP, all caps letters. You could take a look at all the educational material. If you like it, if you think it's something that can help your trading, then you're welcome to stay. If not, you're welcome to take the education and then go on your own way. In my opinion, you underestimate the impact of a DFV tweet or even 13D. It would 2x the price targets easily. So Square Dome Moonlight, I don't underestimate it. I think the price action is going to happen regardless. And if a tweet comes or a 13D comes, it's just the price action was going to happen regardless. That's what I think. What are the main differences between the Platinum plan and the private Discord plan? Very simple. The private is much more experienced traders. People are posting trades all day, scalp trades, swing trades, day trades on the market, on anywhere around the market. Much more experienced traders. And then the Platinum plan is more like holding melt-up positions, waiting for melt-ups to occur. But yeah, it's just beginner and expert, I would say, is the main difference. All right, I'll stick around for a couple of minutes if any of you guys have more questions, and then I think we can wrap this up. Very exciting week ahead. I hope you all do great. Really do think this is finally playing out for us. I know it's been a long time. And again, I mean, guys, I know a lot of people are upset about me. I called for a melt-up once the weekly trigger crossed above the monthly trigger. Now, in retrospect, I probably should have waited to post about it until much further along. But you guys have to understand, there were so many times where it looked like we were going to get the bullish crossover, and we just didn't. Like, even here, I thought we would get it. I didn't realize we would just come crashing right back down. That was when that was the Japan carry trade. I don't know if you guys remember. You could see SPY underneath also came back down strong. So that was like the first big delay. And then here, I thought we were ready to go as well. And then earnings, we got hit with that third dilution. And then here, I thought we were ready to go as well, but just, no volume, no follow through. But here, with Bitcoin surging past all-time highs, with Ethereum Classic surging, with a lot of risk-on indicators flashing green right now. Now, and the bullish weekly trigger crossover finally happened, makes a whole lot of sense here that this move's about to go ballistic. Okay, all right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you on Twitter. No, commands, I don't think this can be a false alarm, because in these other scenarios, Bitcoin wasn't surging to all-time highs. In these other scenarios, Ethereum Classic wasn't pumping. And in these other scenarios, we never ended up getting the bullish weekly trigger, monthly trigger crossover, but now we finally did. So I do think this is really going to be it. Corey, I don't have any thoughts on Darren Lewis post from Yale Bus because I didn't see it. Yeah, I think we're all going to make it. I think it's finally time. Dilution should not worry you at all. No Vader. I think this move is happening regardless. I don't think there's gonna be any dilution, and even if there is, I don't think it'll affect anything at all. I think what's done is done, and whatever happens next is already programmed to happen. Is there a thing that could break the setup or an indicator? No, I don't think so. I mean, I think this is gonna happen. Guys, you have to understand. There's always that 1% chance or whatever that things don't plan out exactly. Like nothing is risk free in the market, but it's just the market's all about if you have a good shot, take the shot, and this is a good shot, so I'm taking the shot. Okay, good luck, everybody.